trust in itself means people should believe the central bank will protect price stability and act independently. So when trust is strong, inflation expectations stay anchored and markets remain stable. So in simple translation, it's just a thing of saying if people trust the bank, then the economy becomes easier to manage. Basically, that's basically a take on it on that.
Now, Cleophas, the governor also stressed continuity in maintaining price stability despite leadership transitions. Why is policy continuity important for long-term economic planning and inflation control?
Well, from an economic standpoint of view, continuity reassures markets and the public that policy won't just change suddenly. So there won't be a shock in markets and policy. So it supports long-term planning, stable inflation expectations, of course, and investor confidence as well. So what we have to take from this is the fact that stability in policy matters more than the personalities that come with it.
The Monetary Policy Committee indeed decided to keep the repo rate unchanged at 6.5%. What economic signals likely informed this decision? And just to add, what message does it send to markets and businesses?
Well, I mean, when you look at the signals that you get to look at, you obviously get to look at different economic perspectives. So is inflation and everything else in between. For example, when it comes to economies like Namibia, for instance, we have to realize that Namibia is highly exposed to global shocks, right? So these geopolitical tensions affect fuel and food prices, for example. So volatile capital flows impact the currency as well. And global debt pressures obviously influence interest rates as well. So we look at all factors that come in, not only locally but also outside, because at the end of the day, the policies that are happening globally as well, or geopolitically, they also get to influence or affect the local wallet as well.
So the new governor mentioned global risks such as geopolitical tensions, volatile capital flows. How do these international developments directly affect a small, open economy like Namibia?
Well, just as I previously mentioned, Namibia is exposed obviously now to these global shocks as well. Just to say it again, so your geopolitical tensions, of course, excuse me for that, have a direct influence on it, right? So what happens globally doesn't only stay global, right? It also reaches now local wallets as well. So anything that is happening globally, be it sanctions, right? Be it sanctions. We had an issue with the US that was handing out sanctions like it's sweets. So all these get to also influence your local economy as well at the end of the day. So we get to look at what's happening globally, and according to that, we also now station or we position ourselves accordingly, and then we make the right decisions and right policies towards that.
Now, the governor did also mention that Namibia is entering what the governor called a new phase of economic transformation. What opportunities and risks does this transformation present for the economic growth and the financial stability?
Well, I mean, the opportunities include new industries, of course, as always. You have now digital services as well and higher productivity, of course. Risks now come in to include now skills shortages, something that we have always been on about, skills shortages, the inequality of it, and moving faster than regulation infrastructure can support, of course. So we should not move too quick faster than our regulations and our infrastructure as well, because we might have these brilliant ideas and brilliant policies that we might want to put upon the economy, but then do we have the regulations and do we have the infrastructure as well? So to be on a balanced line here is that transformation creates opportunities, right? But but only if it's really well managed, right? So it still has to be well managed as much as we get these opportunities, for example.
Cleophas, commodity prices such as the gold, uranium, copper and zinc remain strong, while diamond prices are under pressure. How do these mixed commodity trends influence Namibia's growth outlook and the government revenues?
Well, I mean, strong prices, because I hear you mention gold and uranium, right? So strong prices for gold and uranium obviously support now exports and revenues, right? But now when it comes to now weak diamond prices, for example, they reduce income and put pressure now on the government finances, right? So the whole strategy towards this is that a mix matters a lot, right? Mm-hmm. So not all commodities move in the same direction at the same time. So we have to make sure that in times where gold and uranium, for example, are making a profit on it, we focus on that, but also not ignoring the fact that with diamonds that can pick up as well. But putting everything all in one and only focusing, let's say, on just diamonds alone, that will obviously put us at a very high risk situation. So being able to look at all these different commodities and them being able to now have an influence on our government revenue is very important. So the whole key point is that we should have a mix, right? So not all commodities move in the same direction as stated previously.
Mm-hmm. Now, Cleophas, the bank says its policy approach will remain data-driven and measured. What key economic indicators should Namibians be watching in the coming months to understand future interest rate decisions?
Well, inflation. You look at your prices, right? So you look at your prices. The food. You look at the loans, or for example, because at the end of the day, we have to look at right now, how much are we exactly paying for loans, for instance? How is the household budgets, for instance, right? How are we handling that as a nation, for instance? So we have to make sure that we anchor the fact that the repo rate sets the direction of borrowing costs, obviously, in the economy, right? So when it changes, households and businesses feel it, through loans, for example. Sometimes not immediately, but steadily, of course. So let's keep a lookout on that. Our food prices, our petrol prices, for example, or fuel prices in that term. Our prices reduced recently, which is very good. So those indicators show the common public that if A, B, and C reduce pricing, for example, then what is it most likely to mean to us as the end users, for example, if that makes sense.
Now, finally, Cleophas, based on his speech and the current economic environment, what is your overall outlook for Namibia's economy in the coming 12 to 18 months?
Well, for now, the message that we have to take is that is stability, right? But obviously, decisions will continue to follow the data, right? So you cannot, as much as we can do predictions, anything can really happen when it comes to economies. So especially looking at now these global shocks that, for example, that get to just happen whenever they get to happen. So being able to, right, we should be ready for any of these shocks that may come upon, right? So let's just make sure that we run the economy the way we have been running it, because clearly we've been running it quite smoothly. We still focus on the data that is currently coming out. We focus on skills development for our youth. We focus on, obviously, employment and everything else in it, right? Because at the end of the day, all these factors, they come and influence the economy at the end of the day, right? So the moment we look at all these things and we actually give a strong focus on them and making sure that everything should be stable at the end of the day, then we know that we are going in the right direction, as we have been for the past couple of months, or rather even past fiscal year, for example. So I'm positive that the economy is going to continue doing even better and better. Looking at obviously the oil and all discoveries that are happening currently in the country. So there's a lot of attention that is on Namibia at the moment. So let's not get too excited as well, but also as we go for it, let's take the opportunities. Let's also not be too scared of taking the opportunities that are handed to us at the end of the day.